Sawadee Kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is Chapter 2 of our book, Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Nibbana. Here on Sunday and Wednesday, we meet for our group learning program in Facebook, YouTube, our Zoom virtual classroom. We also record this for our podcast and send it out to some other places as well. So I would like to just welcome you to our class today, because over the course of the next few months, we're going to be walking you through chapter by chapter in this book so that you can learn, reflect, and practice the teachings of Gotama Buddha on this path to enlightenment, where the mind can eliminate 100% of all discontent feelings, and the mind can be peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, never again experiencing any of these discontent feelings like sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, boredom, loneliness, shyness, jealousy, resentment. All of these discontent feelings can be eliminated as part of this path. And here in chapter 2, I spend a bit of time to kind of get the reader ready to understand why it's even important for them to potentially learn and study Gotama Buddha's teachings. And in each one of these classes on Sunday, I typically give a talk related to the chapter itself to help further clarify any aspects of the teachings in the book that I'm sharing, and then open up to questions through Facebook, YouTube, and Zoom. Well, today we're going to do something a bit different, because if you're listening to this, that means that you have already chosen to study the teachings of Gotama Buddha. If you've read this chapter and you've seen some of my thoughts around why someone would study Gotama Buddha's teachings, then you're already really familiar with my thoughts on this topic. But since I've been teaching now in this group learning program for this version of it for the last 6 weeks, I thought it would be a great time for all of us to have a nice discussion together, and a real interactive discussion where you guys do the vast majority of the talking and help each other and help me to understand why have you chosen to study Gotama Buddha's teachings, rather than me sharing what I feel is the reasons why someone should study, which is already captured in the book. If you've studied that, then I'm really interested in understanding more from you about why have you chosen to study Gotama Buddha's teachings. And feel free to talk and share that. So those of you in the Zoom virtual classroom will be able to take you off mute, and James, Manal, Basam, our moderators, will be able to do that and give you guys a chance to talk. And the people in our live stream will be able to hear that. And anybody who's in the live stream of Facebook, YouTube, if you guys would like to come into Zoom, this gives you a better opportunity to participate in today's class, where we can have discussion and get to know each other and the reasons why you're embarking on this journey to the path to enlightenment. For those of you guys that are in Facebook and YouTube who don't have access to Zoom, or you would just prefer to stay there, then you can share your content in the comment section of Facebook and YouTube, and our moderators will see that and we'll be able to share that in the classroom. So I would like to just welcome all of you and just say that I'm going to do very little talking in today's class, other than just to lead the discussion and really turn this over to you guys to share why is it that you've chosen to study Gotama Buddha's teachings, and share a bit of your story if you'd like, however you would like to do that. Perhaps you can, of course, share your name, where you live, what country you live in, and anything about your background that you like, even, kind of your profession and what you do on a daily basis. That would be really helpful as you also share about why you've chosen to study Gotama Buddha's teachings. So I will turn this over to all of you. If you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can put your comments in the comment section and our moderators will see that. But I would really like to encourage you guys in Zoom to raise your hand electronically so that you can just share what it is that has brought you to decide to study the teachings of Gotama Buddha. So I'll turn this over to you, James, Manal, and Basam.
All right. Well, everyone feel free to volunteer, but I can start out for us. As you know, my name is James. I'm from South Carolina, which is in the United States. And as far as how I came to study the teachings, I would say that coming up in a society where we're told to find a job, to consume, and to find meaning that way, and to find satisfaction that way, well, I did that for part of my life, and I didn't find satisfaction. And I've always been a truth seeker to some degree, though, partly because I didn't find satisfaction that way. And when I came across the Buddhist teachings, it clearly explains that dissatisfaction I felt and why I felt it. And it really articulated on and expanded on some experiences of insight and truth and wisdom that I had encountered in my life. And immediately I was able to sense the truth in that, and I wanted to further study it. And one thing that really appealed to me when I began studying the teachings is that it's not based on faith, because I came up in a Baptist church and we were driven by guilt and fear to study that religion. And it was so enlightening for a person who is more of a truth seeker to be told that everything that you're studying here, it's about finding evidence for yourself and about actively attempting to disprove the Buddha. And I've been studying for a little over a year now, and I have continually attempted to do that, and I have not been able to do that. And instead, I began, as I went further down the path, to see the teachings in the world all around me. For instance, in the COVID crisis, and in my relations with others, and in my own mind. In a sense, life becomes a teacher the further down the path you go. And I think even in a sense, when I started out and I was really excited about studying, I may have wanted to watch a movie or read a book that had Buddhist themes, but you realize that you can read any book and you can read any movie and you can find the teachings there, because the teachings are all around us. It's simply the natural law of existence. And that has also continually inspired my journey, just continually attempting to disprove the Buddha and not being able to, and just seeing the teachings everywhere. And on a practical level, it's made me a better person. It's made me a better husband, a better friend, a better son. It's made me more patient, less egotistical, more caring, less anxious. For instance, a year ago, I wouldn't have been so comfortable speaking like this to you all, but it has really made me a better person in every sense. And I'm far from enlightened. Like, I have no shortage of ego to work on. I have no shortage of aversion that I'm working on every day. But to be able to see the impact that it's made on my life, while also knowing that I've only really chipped the surface, it's really inspiring, and it just continues to encourage my practice. And that is essentially why I'm still studying, because I can just see the potential for this and understanding reality and understanding myself and just improving my life. And I think as you start out on the path, there are always going to be ebbs and flows. You're going to have times when you're especially interested and times when a lot's going on in your life. But I think I can just about guarantee everyone here that if you stick with the path and you listen to David, and you have a teacher in David who is completely committed to your practice and leading you on this path, that I can't recommend enough that you stick with this, and that it can really change your life. So I think that's kind of why I practice, why I originally practiced, and why I still practice. And it would be so encouraging to hear anyone here also give their story.
Thanks for sharing that, James. I'm curious, what are some of the things that you feel that you've been able to work on eliminating? And what are some of the things that you feel like you've cultivated as part of your practice and has benefited you? And as part of that, if you have any suggestions for people who are maybe just starting out, what are some things that you would suggest for people to get started and get going with this path?
Okay. Well, I think that it's been a lot that I've worked on. I think I've become especially a more patient person, and I'm not led by my emotions and impulses in the same way. For instance, if I'm in a conversation with another person and it could possibly have turned into an argument in the past, I'm able to let go of that feeling and respond in an articulate and calm way. I think it's made me calmer in general. It's made me more understanding of other people. I can see the causes and conditions that lead to people's behavior. And instead of seeing a person's behavior and essentially feeling negative toward that person and feeling aversion, instead I'm able to feel understanding. I think that's been a huge impact for me. And of course, that's made me a much more calm and much more satisfied person. As far as what I would recommend, I think that when you're studying, it's important to just stay with a consistent meditation practice as you're beginning, because it can take time, but meditation can teach you so much about learning to let go and learning to observe your mind and be mindful, because it's really all about mindfulness. When you're in these situations, if you can be mindful of what you're experiencing and how you feel, and you can accept that, it's then that you can begin to change it and change your behavior for the better. And so I think that that's very important. And I think just studying the book and studying the teachings, I think at the beginning it can seem perhaps overwhelming because it's all new, and you have the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, and the 10 Fetters, and it seems like you're learning a lot, but it's not like that. It's really that you're learning the same types of things in different ways. It's all pointing to the same truths. And once you begin, your mind really begins penetrating that truth, it all makes sense, and you just feel like you're learning the same things from a different angle. So I would just say to just continue building your knowledge and attempt to disprove the Buddha. I think that's also great advice, because you can go out in the world, and if you attempt to disprove the Buddha, it's going to be difficult to do that. And when you're unable to do that, it really strengthens your belief in the teachings, and perhaps you will feel that you have done that, and that would be a great opportunity to reach out to David and discuss that and discuss what you saw, and perhaps he can discuss with you your understanding and what you experienced, and that can help you grow as well. But it's really all about yourself and you being active, because this is your journey, and this is you, and this is your path, and it's yours to take ownership of, essentially. And it's an everyday practice. It's not the type of thing that you come to on Sunday mornings because you're going to be guilty if you don't. It's something that you actively engage in every day of your life. And I think that if you approach it from that angle, then the doors of liberation are opened up for you.
Have there been any moments during your journey that were kind of like aha moments or kind of real revelations that really helped to frame things in a certain way that really helped you as you were getting started and as you continue now?
Well, I think I would have to think on that and think back on my journey to remember if there was any one moment. I'm not sure if there was any one moment, but I think as time has passed, I've just continually, as I said, attempted to disprove the Buddha, and I've observed the world, and I've observed my own history, and I've observed my own life. And the more I've learned, the more I've seen how everything that happens in the world fits into that. And that has really cultivated my understanding, I would say. And maybe I can think on that and think of times, say a year ago or so, that really were experiences that opened my eyes. But, I think the state of the world was one thing that was going on when I began practicing. It was around February or March, and COVID was really beginning to take hold, and people were going on lockdown. And that was when I was really beginning to study and seeing the effect seeing COVID and how it began in regards to people's relationship with the natural environment, which is, the Buddha discusses karma, and seeing how karma affected and created this condition. And not only that, but just seeing the way that my mind reacted and the way people across society's mind reacted, the discontent that they felt because of their craving to be anywhere other than where they were and being in the now, in the present moment. I think that seeing that craving play out so vividly and the discontent that it caused in people's minds, whereas I was beginning to study, so I still had levels of discontent. But I think that had I not been practicing and had COVID happened in 2019, I know for a fact, based on the way that my mind was, that I would have reacted to COVID so much differently, and it would have caused so much discontent and so much pain and so much stress in my life. Whereas because I was starting out on this path, and because I was just starting out, I was really able to take on that in a much calmer and more accepting way, and going with the flow of what was happening and learning from it and considering it as a teacher. So I think that's one thing that maybe really sticks out, because it was a thing that was happening as I began learning, and it was really the type of event that really showed the teachings in myself and others and just the world around me.
Yeah, it seems like this approach of not believing anything and proving it for yourself so that you can see the truth. It seems like was a real aha moment that you had already mentioned, that really helped you to break through to a lot of other things.
Absolutely. I think that was critical for me, because most of my life I've lived in a situation where I was expected to just believe what I was being told. I was expected to religiously believe, and doubt or questioning was not a positive thing. It was actually the opposite. It was frowned upon when I was coming up in the church I was in, and just across society. I think I was previously a person who did question norms, and I questioned why. I asked that question, why? And to all of a sudden find a path toward enlightenment that encouraged me to ask that question was really important for me, and it was really eye-opening, and it really makes you feel like you're studying essential truths, because if what you're studying is the truth, then you should be encouraged to question it, because if it's the truth, then you're only going to essentially prove it by questioning it. It's almost like science in a sense. So I think that was definitely a thing that, as a person who asked the question why, really attracted me toward these teachings, and it was really a draw and an eye-opener, I would say, in a sense.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you for sharing, James. Appreciate that. Yeah, are there other folks out there that would like to share why they've chosen to study Gotama Buddha's teachings?
First of all, just excuse my sometimes poor English. The starting point was just like maybe all of the human beings was experiencing much suffering or much discontentedness. So at that point, there was a decision to just try to figure out why is this happening, or maybe all human beings are experiencing the same discontentedness or suffering in the mind. So at some point of time, there was a decision to try to find an answer for this question. The first field was religions. So being born here in Egypt, a country with a majority of Muslims, so the first field was to start searching in was Islam. And then reading about Christianity, about Judaism. After some time, there was some readings about Buddhism maybe and Taoism. But those about Buddhism and Taoism were just translated articles. They were just explanation about how people who try to translate these articles was about. I mean, it wasn't accurate translation. Reading about these religions, the stuck point was belief. Something was wrong here. Why do I believe? Why should one believe? Belief is not going to help anyone. Of course, it's just you need to accept things you cannot figure out, you cannot prove, you cannot get an evidence for by yourself. So the second field was money, thinking that maybe money will fix this discontentedness in the mind. The second step was just starting a business, and maybe in less than a year, it was really a successful business. So now life became at that point. Life became maybe easier because there are no more needs. You can get many things, but still there was a kind of restlessness in the mind. Money couldn't fix this point. Religions at that point couldn't fix this point. The third field was science. So maybe science can provide an answer or give a hand of help to fix this kind of restlessness. So I started a master degree in psychology. Maybe psychology, it will help about how to understand the human mind. Maybe this will provide some kind of help. But again, it was all in vain. No benefit, no great benefit was from all this. For some years, tried some medicines, which is called mental health medicines, but still all in vain. So maybe from a year from now, when COVID-19 started to invade Egypt, there was a kind of lockdown. So having much time to search, to investigate, just got to know about this Facebook group, and from that point, many things, really many things changed. Many questions were answered. Things became to be more and more clear, and this exact point of the restlessness of the mind was greatly fixed. So now, after maybe a year, just being sure that that decision of reading, studying, reflecting, applying, or implementing the teachings was mostly the best decision has ever been made. In short, why studying the teachings? Maybe for these points. A better quality life instead of a miserable life. A life full of peace instead of a life full of suffering or discontentedness. Wise decisions that will lead to wholesome results, of course, will be better than haphazard decisions with some unwholesome results. For the first time, a peaceful, calm, and serene mind instead of a restlessness mind or restless mind. A liberated mind instead of mind full of fears. Exactly, fears was a great problem for this mind, experiencing much fears. Maybe living this life while knowing about the permanent laws of existence is, of course, much, much better than living this life without knowing about these laws.
Thank you, Bassem. That was really nice to hear some of the things that you've discovered as you've been walking this path and how you've come to it. It's interesting you spoke about eliminating fears. James kind of talked a little bit about shyness and how he was shy in the past and he wouldn't have been able to do what he was doing at this moment to share his story. So one of the ways to practice the teachings, and one of the things that we need to do in order to attain enlightenment, is to eliminate shyness and eliminate fears. And one of the ways to do that is actually to confront it by actually doing what you and James have already done, which, if there was any shyness or there was any fears, it doesn't sound like you did. You guys both just jumped right in and started sharing. But this is one of the ways to train the mind that there's nothing to be afraid of, to share and to talk publicly. So this can be a great way to train the mind to let go, because the mind wants to hold back, and it has this self and it has this ego, and it feels like if it shares at a moment like this in a class that, oh, there's some fear, there's something bad that's going to happen to me. But one of the ways to actively train the mind is to apply effort and say, no, I'm not going to let you have fear here. I'm not going to let you have shyness here. I'm going to actually share. So you and James doing that already is really good for your practice, is to, be open and talk and be able to share in situations like this. So anybody who is still hasn't shared yet, even though we've only had 2 people talk so far, and just to remind people who are joining us maybe since I opened up the class, is what I'm doing is just giving you guys all an opportunity to share why have you chosen to study Gotama Buddha's teachings, rather than me share what I feel is why people should study Gotama Buddha's teachings, which is already captured in this book to a large degree. That rather than me share that, because if you've read the book, you already know how I feel, I'm interested in hearing about you guys and why you've chosen to learn and study and then practice Gotama Buddha's teachings. So thank you, Bassem. Thank you, James. It looks like Gloria has her hand up and she would like to share as well. So interested to hear what Gloria has to say.
Hello everyone. I am originally from Colombia, South America. I came to United States very young. And I have been here for 34 years now. Since I was very young, I remember I was raised Catholic. And I remember I was young, and I remember because we used to go to church, Sundays, and my mom is very Catholic and all that stuff. And, so I am very attached to my mom. And I used to look at her a lot and like all this religion. And I started like, okay, so God, Jesus. And I was like, okay, so Jesus is God. And okay, so Jesus has a father. And who created the father? So I was like so young, and I was like, so if someone created the father, who created that? So I started questioning it, like, so deep inside me, like, if someone created someone that was created the father, who created? So inside me, I started like wow. And so I started um, be older and saw things that were in the church, where people would go to church and then come to our daily lives, and they would be acting in a way that was not what I was listening in church. And so, and also I heard that the priest, like had an affair, or all that stuff that happens. And so that was kind of like, I think those are things that were starting to spark an interest in me and trying to see why this is happening. What the press is supposed to be this and that, and like, and who is God? So I started to search as I got older. And so I joined Christian religions here in the United States. By that time, I was here in the United States, and I joined many Christian religions. I stayed sometimes 2 or 3 months, maybe a year. There was one church that I got baptized, and it was a Sunday the next day, and then I didn't come back because it was something that's so strong inside me that I felt that I did it because it was pressure. Like I felt pressure from the people that I used to go there, and so the next step was to be baptized. But then that day I got baptized and I didn't come back. It was so strong in me. It was the same with churches that I used to join. I would go through 3 months, a year, and then inside me, it just didn't feel right. So then I started going to Hinduism in New York City. And I even started dressing like the woman there. I was in the temple for 3 months. And I still feel that the philosophy is so deep, is so priceless, it's amazing. But inside me was so strong the fact that I'm a woman, and I felt that because I was a woman, I felt less. That I felt that the way the culture was, that I needed to be walking behind the man. I couldn't, in a conversation, look at the man in the eyes. Although I still feel the philosophy is beautiful. It's so deep. So I quit that too. I quit it. And then the next one was I still kept going to Christian churches, or then the next one was Buddhism. It was a little bit complicated for me. By them, I just couldn't understand. Or maybe the group I joined was Zen. Maybe I just couldn't understand it back then. But anyway, I liked, because the people seemed so wise and so calm, and whatever they say sounded so deep. So I was there like, and then I started meditating. We used to go in a sangha. We used to eat together, and meditate. The meditation was very, very important. And for me to meditate I tried, but it was really hard because my mind, it just kept like, and I just saw, and most people, they were so calm and they were able to meditate like an hour when we were together there. So I thought it was beautiful, and it sounded like the teachings were so deep, but I think I didn't get it, so I quit. But I kept all the time looking and looking. So they're definitely not Christian. I knew not Christian, definitely something else. Until and I'm happy. Another thing that James and Bassem was saying is, I always thought, okay, so if I wear these clothes, I will be happy. If I look beautiful, I will be happy. If I have a husband, I will be happy. If I have a degree, I will be happy. And I had all these things, and I am so grateful that I have all these things, have good health and everything. I still inside me. And like, I will accomplish a degree, and I'm like, I'm not happy. I mean, it's nice. It gets me comfortable in the material world, but so inside me, deep inside me, I feel like deep sadness. I thought it was depression, but now I am starting to understand that is the condition of humans, that, oh, when we are not enlightening, is that the condition. We need to work on our mind. So then I'm back, and I think I'm more ready to understand Buddhism, and the reason why I'm not. Honestly, I don't want to say I'm going to join Buddhism. I'm going to be a Buddhist. I don't. That's not my goal. My goal is to not even to be happy, because happiness is craving, and I do understand, because I have plenty of craving in my life. So my goal is not to be happy. My goal is to be peaceful, to have joy, to be calm, to be more even. And my understanding is, I see that Buddhism is like, and then when I used to go to the Zen Buddhism group, many psychologists and people that were like into anything that has to do with the mind, they're studying the mind. They want to understand this is deep. And now that I'm starting to understand more about Buddhism, I see that this is deep. It's a deep psychology. It's so advanced. It's so amazing. But I'm not surprised that the Buddha, and I read that other beings have been able to be enlightened, and it's just because through meditation they get this wisdom that is so so deep, and so for me it's not that I'm not looking for a religion. I'm looking for a better way of life, to be calm, to be more even. And one thing is, I'm single, and I'm a older woman, and I observe people around me. One thing that I see is that I'm learning, because I always feel like there's something that I need to learn, and I need to observe what's around me, what's happening. One of them is loneliness. I mean, hate is a big one, and in many of the ones I don't read are in the book, and David is mentioning, but I think hate is one big one. But now I think one of my learnings in this time is loneliness, the fear of getting old and being alone. And I want to learn to be okay with being alone.
Very good, Gloria. Sounds like you found exactly what you're looking for.
Thank you.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Who else would like to share today why you decided to study Gotama Buddha's teachings?
We have a comment on Facebook. I would be okay sharing that right now.
Okay, sounds good, James.
And it's from Ahimsa. It says, I live in Wales, UK. I was brought up Christian, but I didn't believe that religion was for the benefit of all, or even based on truth and compassion. Buddhism is. It aligns with my morals and ethics. And I truly believe that if people follow the path, we will live in a much more beautiful and compassionate and loving world.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Yeah, it's interesting, something that Gloria shared about, she's not interested in being a Buddhist, which is great, because I don't think Gotama Buddha was a Buddhist either, because that whole term came after his death. During his lifetime, he was just sharing teachings that led to enlightenment, and there wasn't really necessarily a label to it. It's only now, today, 2,500 years later, that we've labeled, this person's a Buddhist, this person's a Christian, this person's Hindu, this person's Muslim, this person's Jewish, or all the different traditions that are out there. But if you really boil all this down, we're all just human beings looking for understanding and looking for, hopefully most of us, a better place to exist and a better way to live. And to me, that's what Gautama Buddha shared. So that's why I mentioned to Gloria that it sounds like you found exactly what you're looking for, because she says, I'm not interested in being Buddhist. That's good, because Gautama Buddha wasn't Buddhist either, in my opinion. All right, so who else would like to share, either in Zoom or anyone in our Facebook or YouTube live stream? Why have you guys chosen to study Gautama Buddha's teachings? What brought you to decide to study Gautama Buddha's teachings? Looks like
Josh just raised his hand.
Yeah, it looks like Josh is going to share. Let's hear from Josh. And remember, if you guys could share where you're from, where you live, that would be really great, so that we kind of get to know you a little bit.
Hello, David and everyone. My name's Josh. I'm from Ontario, Canada. And why I decided to start studying Gautama Buddha's teachings, I guess my whole life I've kind of been spiritual. I was also raised in a Catholic background, but never fully practiced it devotingly. And then I guess this all probably started during the COVID lockdown. A lot of people probably had the same experience when it kind of became a time of introspection where I kind of focused inward. And I kind of came to this understanding that, okay, well, I can't change the world around me, but maybe I can change the way that I view the world and react to it. So that's when I kind of started looking into Buddhist teachings. And eventually I discovered the podcast, Walking the Path with the Buddha, through Google Podcasts. And yeah, I've pretty much just begun on this journey. I've been studying the group learning program, I think, for about a month now. And yeah, I'm very early in this path, but even through the past year, with all the introspection and meditation, I have noticed that I've changed the way that I react to certain situations, and situations that I would become easily frustrated with. I kind of take a second now and process it differently. For example, like the other day, I was carrying groceries in with my wife, and we one of the bags broke and everything dropped. And it was like, oh, okay, well, let's figure out how to save the rest of this and get it upstairs. And we got upstairs and we kind of realized, a year ago, we would have reacted a lot differently to the situation. So even from the brief time that I've been trying to make this change in my life, I have noticed the benefit. And yeah, I guess it got to the point where I started looking for a teacher or some guidance in how to approach this path. And that's when I discovered the podcast, and that's when I joined the group learning program.
Wonderful, Josh. Glad to have you. And isn't that one of the beauties about Gautama Buddha's teachings, that you can see it working like right now, and you've only been studying for a short time and practicing a short time, and you're already seeing benefits. So this is outstanding. Yeah,
it is definitely very beneficial. And yeah, like I said, in the brief amount of time that I have been even just meditating, it's definitely changed the way that I approach situations, especially when it comes to something like frustration or anger, something like that. It's really helped.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing, Josh. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Looks like Judith has her hand up as well. We'll go to Judith now.
Hello.
Hello, Judith.
Many things are very liberating from these teachings. Very peaceful, very liberating. When Gloria was talking, I was thinking about this. Am I a Buddhist? Am I not a Buddhist? But then all this teaching on non-self It's very liberating. Do I have to identify as a Buddhist or not? Is there a goal for my identity, or just keep studying all these things? Then also another concept is impermanence. If there is impermanence, this is also very liberating. We don't have to attach to an idea or an identity, or just keep studying. And then another thing that I really love about this class is I had this craving on what did the Buddha really say, because we hear so many things. There are so many ceremonies that are so beautiful, but so complicated sometimes. And then just to come to the class and study what did the Buddha really say or not say is also very freeing, very peaceful. Another thing that took me many years to understand is that this meditation, just breathing, is so subtle. The effects can be so subtle that you don't even realize because it's simple. So just taking the breath as the present moment and just breathe. It doesn't have to be amazing or expect big results or change reality, or just breathe and be there, present, observing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are results, but they can be so subtle.
Yes.
But they build up. And then they build up. But if you don't pay attention, you may not even realize it. This took me years. You don't have to have the best breathing machine. It doesn't matter. Just be there. Took me so many years to realize. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, wonderful.
And,
Where are you from, Judith? Where do you live?
I'm from Barcelona, Spain.
Okay, you're in Spain now?
Yes.
Okay. Outstanding. Do you have one of your dogs with you?
I have my dog and my 2 cats, and they love class. They are always around.
They're learning the Buddhist teachings too, huh?
They're learning, they pay attention, they do all the meditations.
Good. They'll get a better rebirth next time. Maybe get enlightened and be done with all of
Yes.
this.
They're gonna be humans for sure.
Good. Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything that you have discovered along the way that you feel would be beneficial for people? I know you've been studying for close to a year, at least with me now. So anything that you encountered that you feel like could be helpful for someone who's maybe just starting out?
From the class, well, just that it's very useful to know what the Buddha really said or did not say,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes we hear so many things and we have all these memes on the internet. The Buddha said this, and then just go to the sacred text and see what it was. It's very useful, more simple, more to the point, helpful. And also one thing that I'm very grateful for is that it helps me see life in a more panoramic point of view, not so stuck in the moment. Yes, we are in the present moment, but no need to have too much craving for the present moment. You can detach and see your whole life in a more panoramic way, and then this helps you realize there are different kinds of approach to life.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation, Judith, because like before you, at least for me, before I ever learned Gotama Buddha's teachings, when something would happen, I did feel pretty stuck. I felt like, what am I going to do here? I feel really stuck. But when you learn this wisdom of the Buddha's teachings, you realize that you're not stuck, and this isn't a permanent situation, and you can apply wisdom and just make better decisions and improve the situation.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Thanks.
James, should we go to Teresa next?
Absolutely. I'll
Okay.
ask her to unmute.
Hi, everyone. My name's Teresa. I live in Leesburg, Virginia, which is about, 35, 40 minutes west of Washington, D.C. I'm really new to looking at the teachings, probably, since about January or so. And I think, like so many people, I come to it from, that feeling of discontentedness and really realizing that that's so present. I'm a mom. I've got 4 kids. They're mostly grown now. They're 3. One just graduated from college. I have twins that are sophomores in college, and then I have a son who's 17. And my mother lived with me for a really long time. And she had some addiction issues, and I realized so much of what I tried to do and what I do with the people in my life is try to fix them. And it really resonated with me. I think the first teaching, when we started up new, when David talked about our joy being conditioned, and it just really hit home for me that so much of my joy is conditioned. I'm never emotional. I never cry.
It's okay. Let it out. Don't hold it in. Just let it out.
Funny. It's like I never, my husband's probably seen me cry like 5 times in 27 years, but it really was kind of life-changing to realize how often and how much my joy is conditioned on the people in my life that I love and trying to make them happy. A couple of my kids have depression pretty badly, and anxiety. My son has really bad anxiety, and it's impermanent, sometimes it's really bad and sometimes it's really good. And, I realized so much of what I did was trying so hard not to accept that and try and fix that. And so, and it's going to be what it's going to be. I mean, I do everything I can to try and help him, and he does well. But one of the things I've learned sort of from the teachings is just to notice that that's a craving of mine. And so much of my joy and how I feel inside is contingent about how he's doing in the moment. And that's never going to bring me contentedness and serenity. So that was really eye-opening for me too. When I really heard that teaching, I noticed that was everywhere in my life. Even hitting the camera, when you talk about those feelings that are neither, whatever, content or joy, they're just like things like shyness. One of my daughters is really, really shy, and she gets that from me. It's that being vulnerable. It's that craving of, what is everybody going to think of me? You know what I mean? And recognizing that and just knowing that that's something that I need to let go of. And so I came to the teachings really from wanting to, like everyone, reach a point where we do have that contentedness. My background too is Catholic, and I still, very much identify as Christian. That was a huge part of my life for a long time, especially when my kids were little. I taught, CCD. And so it's not that I've abandoned those things, but I think it really resonates with me too when you talk about the labels. And I would just notice that there was, for so many people in that environment, there's just no joy for them. And so it really, it made me start to question kind of my place in there and my approach to that as well. So, I guess that's kind of where I'm coming from. I'm on the path to try and really just grow and recognize where things in my life are really attachments and cravings, and trying to increase my meditation practice. It's kind of fits and starts, sometimes I have a really good session, and then sometimes it's kind of hard and I don't have much. So that's kind of how I came to it and what I'm hoping to get out of it, and connecting with other people, and I guess that's about it.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing, Teresa. Welcome. I'm actually very familiar with Leesburg. I used to live in Ashburn and Sterling and Arlington, Northern Virginia. That was That was my old tromping grounds.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's beautiful out here, but it's like everywhere, I recognize too, it's an area too where people just go, 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 around
Yes.
DC it's a really high income, high education level, but one of the things I noticed too is those things don't bring people joy. Like I think Maria was saying, you think all those things, if I just get this, if my kid just makes that team or this or that, I'm lucky a little bit in that I've been able to have some distance from that, but I so recognize it in the culture around us that people are so attached to thinking that that's going to bring them joy. And for a lot of it, it really kind of also made me feel like an outsider a little bit. I had some kids who really did well in that environment, and then I had other kids who didn't do well in that environment. It really made me realize and recognize that our joy is so much contingent on those things sometimes too, living through your kids. And, I try to look for the good in everything. And so even when those are difficult experiences, if you approach them in the right way, they can really help you kind of onto the path of freedom and contentedness. If you really can stand back and look at those and observe them and recognize that so much of that is just our craving and wanting something out of that instead of just being in the present moment. So yeah, thank you for these teachings. They've really helped me.
You're welcome. Glad you're here. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
All right. Looks like Sarah has her hand up. Should we go there next, James?
Yes. Asking Sarah to unmute.
Hi. My name is Sarah. I'm living in Germany. And I joined that program some weeks ago. And sorry to everyone for my English. My native language is German, of course. I could relate a lot to what Basim and Gloria were saying. It was the same for me that I had these questions, these big questions like, what is life? Where do we go when we die? Why is the world like it is? Why is there so much injustice in it? Already when I was a child, and no one could really answer it for me. And it really affected me a lot. I remember as a child I couldn't watch news, for example, because I was always so sad about all the injustice and everything that was reported there that I really had problems to deal with it. And the place where I live, most people are Christian. My grandmother was very Catholic. My parents, on the other hand, they didn't believe in God or in Christianity at all. They were really they believed only in science. So these were the first two things where I started to search. The first thing was the Christian religion, but like the others said before me, it didn't really help a lot because it's based on faith, and I didn't find these things logical that were taught. So I really didn't understand why I should believe the things that were told me. And so the next thing when I got older where I searched was science. I thought, okay, when I understand physics, for example, I understand how the world is working, so I will understand it all. But the more I dealt with it, and with mathematics, I'm working in IT, so it was quite related to what I was learning in university anyways. The more I dealt with it, the more I noticed it's just models, it's not the truth. It's just models that try to explain the truth, but it's not the truth, so there's still a layer between it, and it doesn't really help me 100%. And I've always been interested and somehow attracted by Buddhism, but until that time, I've read a book or two or three, I don't know, but I didn't have any practice or something. It was just that I was kind of drawn to it. And then I think it was 2013, I was in Japan for work, and at the same time, my father at home was very ill, and I knew that he would die in some time. And I still remember that visiting the temples there and just sitting there gave me a lot of comfort, like more than any church or something could give me before. And so I was drawn again, and was somehow going back to the Buddhist teachings and reading more, and my meditation practice was more like an on and off. So I did it for a while and it was good for me, but then other things were coming up again and I stopped again. So but then in 2019 again I lost loved people, and I was really destroyed. I was really sad about it, and again it was Buddhism where I found my comfort and which helped me. So I was reading some books by Thich Nhat Hanh that were helping me a lot. I was visiting a center, but they were doing Tibetan Buddhism, and it also helped me. But again, there was this part of belief in it, which really I couldn't relate very well to. So I didn't go there for very long. But I started searching for a group, and then the pandemic started. So. I couldn't really continue searching here, and somehow I don't know, I found this group on Facebook, and I really found that it helped me a lot. Like I've got a regular meditation practice now, and even my husband joined, and it helps me a lot to understand a lot of things that I didn't really understand before. Like, for example, I was always the happiest when I was somewhere on my own. Like, for example, when I was traveling in other countries on my own. And now I know it's because I was living in the moment there. There was no one having any expectations or anything that how I have to do things. I was just living in the moment without anything was just distracted me from experiencing every moment. Back here now in the daily life, people are expecting a lot. Like, for example, another thing is I've got one daughter who's 3 years old, and I love to be a mom, but it's also a lot of stress, a lot of fears, a lot of things going on when you're becoming a mom. So people here expect me to have more children, but I always feel like I don't know why I have to be attached to this thing to have a lot of children just because all the people here are doing it. And I see that there's not only, there's all this love, which is great, but there's also so much, so much trouble, so much stress connected to it. And it was the first time when I was learning about the teaching when I thought, actually, I don't have to do that. I've got a choice. It's okay to be fine with that one child and to be happy about it. And I learned a lot about myself. I also learned a lot about other people. I also understand why these other people want me to do that now. Before I didn't understand. I was just angry about them to tell me what to do. But now I can understand more about it, gives them better answers. And so it helps me quite a lot. I'm quite happy about that,
Very good. Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. And nice to hear that your husband's joining you as well. This can be really helpful in a household to have multiple people because you guys can support and encourage each other along the path.
Yes, it's so good for the relationship, and it's also my 3-year-old daughter already starts sitting down on the meditation cushion and pretending to meditate, which so I hope that she can also just learn a lot from it when she's growing up.
Yeah, that's nice. Kids, if they see their parents, meditating and practicing these teachings, they're going to learn the truth too, and that'll stick with them, and it'll be shared with your grandkids, I'm sure, if that ends up happening as well. So that's wonderful. All right, well, welcome all the way from Germany. We've got America, Canada, Spain, all different kinds of places represented. This is great. So who's next, James? Do you have something from one of the live streams, or should we go to Gloria?
I'll read off a comment on YouTube, and then we can go to Gloria.
Okay.
IA has an experience to share. I am from the UK. I decided to study the teachings as a way of becoming a better person, and furthermore, understand on a deeper, more meaningful way why life should be cherished and enjoyed. Thank you.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, Buddhism will help you with that because it helps you understand life. So wonderful.
Now I'm asking Gloria to unmute.
Okay.
Right, so I was wondering, I'm loving this group, and I love that we are worldwide group.
Hmm.
I was wondering if we could, if people would like to share the emails or something like that, so that we can also support each other. I have my son has really bad depression. It's really bad, and when I heard Teresa speaking about her, also some of her kids who have depression, or members of her family, and also she's interested in following this path. I think it would be good to have support, that we are on the same line of thoughts, and that we also have kind of the same problem or issue, or things to learn, and we can support each other. So my son is 21, and he's so depressed. He doesn't get out of the house to get some sunshine. He's 24 hours a day in his room, and he's a different soul, but he's my son, and I know, we're supposed to be working ourselves, but we're still in this world, and we're still attached to them, and we want the best. So, it would be good to have support too, and the fact that Teresa was saying, I feel like we are interested in the same path, and we might have the same issues in our lives. So that's, not only Teresa, people here in the group, it would be good to have kind of like people that we can talk about stuff and help each other.
Yeah, for sure. Some things I can share with you, Gloria, is I'm pretty sure that everybody who's involved in these classes, they're also a member of the Facebook group. So you can find them in the member section and send them a private message and contact them that way. And that way there's a point of contact, and you can reach out to all of these folks. And if there's anyone who's not a member of the Facebook group, then you can easily join. Everybody is accepted, of course. And then something that I would like to share with you too, since you mentioned your son, is it's possible to help people in your family if they're open to help without craving, desire, attachment. Attachment isn't that we ignore things like your son being sad or depressed. It's that you can actually help them. And the Buddha actually talks about this, that if there's people in your life that you have compassion for, that you can apply effort to help them understand things like the Four Noble Truths and things like this. So attachment doesn't mean that we're indifferent or we're uncaring or we turn away from the people that we truly care about. It means that we don't attach our feelings and our inner mind to what's going on with them, and that we train our mind that we don't try to control or force, have this mental longing with a strong eagerness for things to be a certain way for them. Because if we have, for example, a son who is struggling with depression, and we really want things to be a certain way for them, and we have this desire, this yearning, this strong eagerness for them to be a certain way, then they're not that way. It's going to cause us discontentedness. So it's possible to let that go, and it sounds like that's what you're working on, is not necessarily wanting anything particular for your son, but perhaps guiding him and providing suggestions and recommendations. And if he's able to read this book or listen to the audiobook or listen to some of the podcasts or things like this, these can all help him, or even just helping him establish a meditation practice as a starting point. Not everybody can maybe necessarily start in a program like this, that maybe it's just good to kind of get him meditating. And that's something that you can do without craving, desire, attachment. And that can be a real nice practice of loving kindness and compassion.
It would be so nice if he can listen, but that's part of his mental illness issue. That's something that, as a mom, that I'm even willing for him to pay for a trip to go to Thailand and just get and join one of those places there, and he can be there and he can learn. But it's I can provide all these things, but what about him? If he needs to accept it, he doesn't want to listen. I'm the mom. He feels as a control. I'm controlling him, and it's not that. So, but before I give someone else the opportunity, also wanted to say that in my mind, I need a structure, and the group that I found through James and Johnny, they recommended the group. This is something that I wanted. I wanted to find a group that had a structure, and so I appreciate the way you have organized this group with the books that you have, the first book, the classes, and then the more advanced. And I need that because I can also read and join groups, but I don't feel that I had a structure, and so I appreciate that. So thank you anyway. Just I wanted to say that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And remember, you can always reach out to me for support as well. If you would like to schedule a personal time for us to talk privately, you can do that. Or if you would like to send me private messages or anything like that, there's people that's part of this group that would be more than pleased, I'm sure, to talk with you as well. Like James is right there in your community, and Johnny as well. So always feel like you can reach out to a member of this community to receive help and be friends, because that's a big part of learning this path and progressing on this path, is having good, wholesome friends that you can reach out to. So you're starting to establish that here in this group through our talk today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Gloria. Thank you for sharing. All right. Who else would like to talk? Who else has something they would like to share about what brought them to study Gotama Buddha's teachings, or anything else about what you're learning and understanding and starting to practice as part of these teachings? Looks like Holly raised her hand. If you could let us know where you live and a little bit about yourself, Holly, that would be good for people to start making connections on a personal level.
Okay, hi. My name is Holly. I live in Alabama in the United States. I've only been in the group for, I guess, about 6 weeks. I'm reading through the book on my own. I'm not finished yet. I still have a lot to learn, a long way to go. And I wasn't even going to say anything this morning. But everybody that has said something so far has said something that's also part of my story. So searching, looking for something, looking for that contentedness, trying lots of different things. I grew up in a Baptist community. My dad was a leader in the church, so every time the doors were open, I was there my whole life. And as I became an adult, I started taking the time to think for myself for once, instead of just believing everything that I was told my whole life, and realizing that there were so many contradictions. But in that particular religion, especially where I grew up in South Alabama, which, if you know, it's called the Bible Belt, Alabama, Georgia, because you can't throw a rock without hitting a church, basically. And so to question anything from the religion is really frowned upon, and sometimes can come with very serious consequences as far as being judged and being treated poorly. And I think that the final thing that got me to walk away from that was in reading the Bible and trying to understand and make sense of the teachings. I think there are a lot of good truths in the Bible. I think my problem is that I misunderstand man's interpretation of Scripture. A lot of times it's easy for someone to make it what they want it to be for convenience sake. And I had a real problem with that, because if you didn't agree with it, it was it was your fault. You were the one that was wrong, and you were the one that didn't have enough faith and didn't have enough belief. So my kids both go to Christian schools, private schools, and they have been taught, they've recently changed schools because the one we were in was just a little bit too over the top for me. But I asked my son a question, a contradiction I found in the Bible, where it teaches if you believe, you have to believe in Jesus. When you die, you go to heaven. And I asked him, my teenage son, I said, what does your teacher say if someone lives in a part of the world where there are no teachings of Jesus and they never hear that story and they never have the opportunity? What happens to them when they die? And he said that his teacher told him that it was just unfortunate for them, they were not part of the chosen. And I cannot accept that. I can't believe that a God would create humanity and then leave some of them to just fend for themselves with no opportunity for salvation or whatever. So that was the final straw that made me say, this isn't for me. And I just totally walked away from all of it. So that's when I started looking for something else. I got really involved in yoga. After a knee surgery, I couldn't do regular exercise for a while. I started doing meditation with a guru from India on YouTube. Got very attached to that practice. And then after about 2 years of that, realized that I wasn't making progress. I wasn't getting anything more. I wasn't growing. I wasn't getting any better as far as my mental state. So I started looking for something else. I did a few self-help programs. I did a program with Mind Valley that was a really great, helped me clear out a lot of guilt and a lot of anxiety that I had. And then started looking at, looked at Hinduism for a little bit, then I looked at Buddhism. I read a couple of books and started reading and trying to learn on my own. And honestly, I felt like it was the right path, but it wasn't quite what I wanted. And then in a Facebook group, a different Facebook group, I had asked a question, and that's when David commented, hey, you can join our group if you want to learn more about this. And that's how I got into this group. So this is the first path that I've been on. It actually makes sense to me. And like a bunch of people already said, trying to find happiness in the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. My goal in my life has always been to help people. And so that's when I got into fitness and nutrition. I got my certification as a personal trainer, my degree in nutrition, because I wanted to help people. And that's all I've ever wanted to do. But I have learned that field didn't bring me happiness just because you can't fix people. They have to want it. They have to want to change. And you can teach people exercise and you can teach people what to eat. But until they decide that they want to do it, they're not going to succeed. So I thought that my satisfaction in that field would be seeing people be successful, and that wasn't happening either. I also have a son that has depression and anxiety, so I deal with that as well, and I'm very close to what both Gloria and Teresa have said about that, and I'm very attached to that, and I'm working on letting go of my attachments, realizing it's my job to love him as a mother, but it's not my job to fix him. So that's hard. It's really hard to let go of that. But I just wanted to say thank you to David for teaching. Thank you to all of you for sharing and opening up. It's not an easy thing to do. People all around the world talking about issues and problems and trying to find their way. So it's a good group.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here, Holly. Thank you for sharing. I think COVID has brought a lot of good things for the people in this group. That COVID is the reason why a lot of you have found this group, in that being inside and kind of life as we knew it kind of shutting down put everyone in a position where, the mind was probably discontent, and you had a lot of time on your hands, and we're all inside, and there's nothing but kind of online. And that's what brought you to this group, and now you're learning and practicing, and you've got the support you need. And for those of you guys that are talking about depression and anxiety and things like this, either in your family members or even you yourself, we're going to be getting to that as part of this path. We're going to be talking about how these things can be resolved as part of learning and practicing these teachings. And one of the best things that we can do to help our family members around us is to improve our own mind first. Because one of the things that we're often taught is to go around and help everyone else. And we go around and help everyone else, but we don't really have the wisdom of how to help everyone else because we haven't figured it out ourselves yet. So what all of you guys are choosing to do is you're choosing to learn and practice the teachings so that you can gain the wisdom first, and then as you develop this wisdom and your practice improves, you become more peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. Your family members are going to take notice of that, and you'll at that point have the wisdom to be able to help these people around you if they choose, right? If they choose to receive that help. And there's no obligation for you to do that, like Holly was saying, but at least you'll have the wisdom to be able to help if they do choose that they would like to receive that help. And one of the best ways for them to see that all of this is working is as you're learning and practicing the teachings and they see your mind become more peaceful, more joyful, then they're like, whoa, what's mom doing? Let's do some of what mom's got, right? Like, mom's got chocolate cake. Like, she seems like she's enjoying it. Let's get a bite of mom's chocolate cake, right? So the Buddhist teachings are kind of that way, that when mom starts smiling more and mom's or dad's starting to be more calm and more peaceful, it's like, whoa, what's mom doing over there? Like, she's been doing this Buddhism stuff for 6 months or a year now. Like, look at her. Like, we're over here arguing and festering, and mom's just so peaceful about it all. Where in the past, mom used to be right here arguing with us, but she's not doing that today, and that's different. That's odd. Like, what's going on? So my congratulations to all of you guys that are sharing so far, that you're choosing to learn and practice this for your own well-being, but then also it's going to extend to your family as well. All right, so thank you guys for sharing so far. Who else would like to share about what brought you to learning and practicing the teachings of the Buddha? Bassam, Manal, or James, do you guys have anything coming in from the live streams?
We have no more comments at this time, David.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll just wrap things up then. Just a short little class compared to some of our other classes, where just give us a chance to kind of come together and talk. I've been teaching now for this iteration of the group learning program for about 6 weeks, and I felt like this would be a good time to just kind of pause for a bit, give a chance for us to talk, get to know each other, and hear some similarities in our journeys and just get to know where each other's from a bit. It's not always easy to do kind of a discussion like this with live streaming out to all these different places and recording a podcast and things like this. So there's kind of more of a talk and then questions coming in. But here I thought this would be a good time for us to just kind of chat a bit and get to know each other. And I've gotten to know, a lot of you guys over the course of the weeks, where either you've been asking questions in class or you've been asking questions in the Facebook group. You may have been scheduling something with me privately. And that's a really nice thing, to be able to get to know you guys a little bit, because then as you ask questions, I can share more specific guidance from the Buddhist teachings to help you. So I'm pleased that you guys have chosen to learn and practice these teachings. And as some of you guys have already been commenting, you're already starting to see improvement. You're already starting to see progress. And it's just been a very short period of time. You take this 1 month or 2 months or 1 year, however long you've been practicing, and you turn that into 6 months or a year or 2 years or 3 years, where you're consistently and in a very diligent way learning and practicing the teachings. Practicing meditation, yes, but practicing day to day, like Josh said, when you drop the groceries, and instead of being angry at the bag or angry at the wife or maybe not carrying as many bags as you thought she would, you just, okay, well, that just happened, so let's just figure out how to fix it, right? So that's the day-to-day practice, is yes, coming to class, yes, learning the teachings, reading the book, listening to the videos, asking questions of your teacher, all these different things. yes, there's meditation, but it's also this day-to-day, moment by moment experience of seeing how to apply the teachings in real world, where when the bag ripped, I don't know if this went through Josh's mind, but yeah, that's impermanence, right? The bag was impermanent. It's not permanent. And also, once the bag ripped and the groceries are all over the ground, that's not permanent either. We can pick these groceries up and take them inside and clean them up, and they'll be just fine. So these situations that happen to us, before we understand impermanence, we often just get so frustrated and irritated because we want that bag to be permanent. Or we see these groceries spread out all throughout the floor and we think that that's permanent. Oh my goodness, I just spent all this money and now these groceries are going to waste. But no, they're not. We can actually fix this and it'll be okay. And that's something that the Buddhist teachings start to slowly show you as you learn them. You start seeing them in the real world, how these real world teachings are truly explaining the natural laws of existence and what we experience on a day-to-day basis. And as I've commented previously, it's a real struggle to live in a world that we don't understand. And that's essentially what the unenlightened mind is experiencing, is this struggle, because we don't understand these natural laws of existence. And because we don't understand them, life becomes a real struggle. And what the Buddhist teachings are about is helping you to understand these natural laws. And the more and more wisdom that you build around these natural laws, you'll start understanding this world and be able to make decisions that are going to be improving for your life. So glad that you guys have chosen to learn and practice these teachings. As we do, you'll just continue to gain more and more wisdom and see more and more benefits along the path. Because next Sunday, we're going to be in chapter 3 of this book, Developing a Life Practice, which is really kind of where things really start get going. Chapter 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. This is the real core of the book and thus the real core of the program, where next Sunday we're going to be in chapter 3, which is titled Nibbana. What is enlightenment, or Nibbana? So before we kind of embark on this journey together, really understanding what's the goal. Because if you were headed to a city and you were interested in going to a particular city, you would kind of want to know what's going on in that city before you get there. So that's what chapter 3 is all about, is helping you understand what is enlightenment. Because the more you understand it, what it is, what the goal is, the more likely you are to be able to progress and actually get there. Whereas if you didn't know the name of the city, you didn't know what roads it took to get there, you didn't know what was there once you got there, so that you know that you're actually there, it would be very difficult to travel to this new city. So that's why I start off kind of the core of these teachings with chapter 3, kind of just really helping you understand what enlightenment is. And we've talked about this at different times, but we're going to really dive into it next week on Sunday. And that's where we're also going to cover those 7 factors of enlightenment, because we already covered in a previous class the stages of enlightenment and the jhanas and these other things that, if you remember, I didn't have time to cover the 7 factors of enlightenment. So we're going to cover those in next Sunday's class as well. And then the Sunday after that, we'll be talking about the 4 Noble Truths and just spending the entire class session on the 3 Universal Truths and the 4 Noble Truths. This Wednesday, we have our loving kindness meditation that we're going to be doing on Wednesday, which is part 3 of this 4-part series. So you're welcome to join for Wednesday, or watch it back on the playback, or listen to it on the podcast if you can't make it on Wednesdays. And just continue to keep learning and practicing. Continue your meditation practice. Continue to ask questions as you need help and you need guidance. Just let me know what questions you have, and I'm more than pleased to be able to help you. So thank you for everyone who chose to share. Thank you guys who didn't share, who joined and just kind of participated by listening and understanding and being part of this group, because individually you're walking this path with the Buddha, but also as a group, as a community, we're here to help and encourage and motivate and support each other on this path as well. So I'll see you either Wednesday or next Sunday. And until then, have a very wonderful day and take care. Sawadee khap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.